really good for you.
Mm.
And getting back to swimming as well has helped a lot. So, and it's nice to see friendly faces.
Have you been in Torquay a long time?
No, about 7 years. I moved here to look after my aunt. She died last year at 101.
Wow.
So I know. So it was actually a bit odd after lockdown because I'd been busy looking after her for some years. And then all of a sudden I got all this time and freedom. And then they locked me down in solitary.
They let you out and then locked you up.
Yeah. Weird. Anyway, life must go on.
And did you see, I love Stover. It's beautiful there, isn't it?
It is.
Is it the dragon? Are the dragonflies about or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I take seeds with me and put them out in different places. There's been a family of rats I've followed for a week or two, lots of babies, little ones, I mean, not pink ones, but mini ones, as well as all the birds. You just sit down there and put some seed out and they all come and join in. It's fabulous. Just have to sit still.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, it is. It's lovely. There's the lake there and water birds as well.
Mm.
Oh, the great crested grebe was there with her babies on top. She was carrying the babies around on her back.
Hello.
You could see these little tiny stripy things. Oh, gorgeous.
You say it because those parts here down to you.
We had the starlings again this year, sitting on all the rooftops and the television aerials right up, probably about 100 of them. They seem to congregate down my road every year. And it's suddenly you open the front door and there's all this chattering and banging about and, shouting at each other, and then they move on and then they come back, and you can stand there for ages just watching them with like a big crowd. And somebody who passed me said, we have to report them because they're not sitting in groups of 6, I said, I hate to think of the policeman trying to climb up that ladder and have a word with starlings. But this morning, they're only small things, but this morning I went out and had some washing on the line because it's going to pour with rain tomorrow. And there's a great big bumblebee out and a little tiny bee as well, and a sort of 2 or 3 in between sizes, all single, not many of them. But I thought, my goodness me, they must have thought it was lovely, the sunshine, and it just going into the last of the flowers in my garden. I haven't got a very big garden.
Whereabouts?
Whereabouts are you, Judy?
Oh, I'm in Exmouth. I'm in a terraced house in Exmouth, yes. So you can imagine, it's not a huge garden, but it's got lots of flowers.
Yeah, because we have starlings down here at Paynton. No starlings around here, and I used to see a lot of them when I was younger.
Oh,
I thought they were in decline.
I think they must be, because I've got quite a sizable garden. Mostly it's grass, but there are shrubs and trees and hedges, and I've been feeding them all the time during lockdown. Haven't seen a starling for a very long time.
No.
We haven't. We used to have lots of starlings where we used to live. We're lucky if we have a blackbird. But having said that, we get quite a few tropical birds coming. For example,
Really?
we get the black-capped, Mr. and Mrs.
Oh,
They
nice.
come. Yeah, they originate from Russia.
Right.
I do
How do you know if they're
sometimes see
communists
them
or
in
not?
Torquay. Sorry.
We've had the baby wren and 3 of its. We've had the adult wren and 3 babies in our garden as well.
Lovely.
Baby
Great.
robins.
So there must be a nest somewhere by, yeah.
Lots of sparrows, of course.
Yeah.
I think that's about it. Can you think of any?
Baby blue.
I
Baby
get
blue
goldfish.
tits. Baby blue tits. Yes.
Oh, nice.
Oh, lovely.
And we
I live-
had the great tit nesting in our garden, and she had five babies.
Right.
So that was rather lovely. I think if you encourage with nest boxes, but apart at quite a distance, you will get some good luck.
Yeah, that's good.
And we've also got lots of bee boxes as well, separated in various sections of the garden.
Oh, that's nice.
Must be beautiful to watch them grow through the summer and everything.
I think the best of it was them actually getting to the front of the nest box and then not being very eager to leave it. And the parents are in the trees calling them, and it can take quite some time before they take the journey to be free and join them. Yeah, you just have to find areas in your garden where you can leave food out for them. But the best thing that's not a bird thing that I'm absolutely delighted with is we have the regal iridescent beetle in our garden, harmless to us, totally friendly, but in most amazing iridescent colours, almost of the rainbow. It's quite extraordinary. And the year before last, we had a mother with a baby on one of the fruit flowering plants. So that's a very nice
You have to
beetle to see. It's very, very nice. Totally
Chris,
friendly.
Chrisia, you have to if you manage to snap a picture of it, send it to me or Aggie, and we'll share it with everyone.
Yeah, I will
I've
do
never
that.
heard of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Iridescent.
The regal iridescent beetle.
Sounds amazing.
I know when we moved to Devon, I was just having my lunch in the summertime, just outside, and suddenly I heard a zzz, and I thought, I don't like the sound of this. It's probably after my food. But anyway, you sort of looked over it, looked at the colours, thought, oh, maybe there's something worthwhile to eat here, being summer, and then it just flew off above me. And from then on, we sort of have a few that they do come into our garden. They love the roses. They hide in the roses and they get nutrients from the roses as well. Yeah, lovely, lovely colour.
Has anyone else seen anything this week? Like any nature?
I've just looked out the window and I've still got a red admiral on my ivy. Now,
Great.
I've had a red admiral. I don't know if it's the same one, but it's been there for 3 days, flitting around and apparently feeding off the flowers there. I didn't know they did that.
I love ivy.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
They love ivy. I've got my husband saying to me, they love ivy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lesson to learn not to trim the ivy back too soon.
Yes.
Yeah. You need to let it flower.
Yes. I think other years I've trimmed it back by this time, and the sparrows, I've got loads of them. I think I've got about 3 generations from this year's nesting. They seem to pick around in the middle of all the flowers as well, so I shall leave them another year.
I've got a very friendly sparrow that's come into the garden, and it's absolutely not frightened of me if I come past it. So I've been leaving little bowls of water and little bowls of food for it. It still comes. It's fearless. Isn't that strange?
I've got a fearless robin. My grandson came up to help me with something the other day, and he was in the shrubbery trying to pull up this deep-rooted weed, and it practically flew into his face, scared him, because it flew towards him, right past his face, and sat in the bush right next to him. Of course, I'm used to him coming around when I'm grubbing in the garden, but he wasn't. Matthew was really scared for a moment. But it's lovely to have them playing around with you out there. Not going to happen with the rain, is it?
In Exmouth, you've got Sue and where's Mark? No, Mark. Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't
I'm
see.
here.
Sorry, missed you. I was like, you've got that park in Exmouth, haven't you, with the squirrels that come and
Fear Park.
yeah,
Yeah, Fear Park.
they're
That's
fearless.
just down the road from us, about a 5-minute walk from us. Yeah.
Nice.
And then there's some along Madeira Walk by the seafront as well. There's some when I go along there quite early in the morning there. People are feeding them along there.
And they come right
we
up.
saw some black squirrels.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh,
When we were,
I've seen them.
not in
when
this
we lived-
country,
yeah.
but
Yes, when we used to live outside
yeah.
this area, many black squirrels. Yeah,
Where was that, Mark?
Bedfordshire.
Okay.
Long way away. Long way away. I tell you, another
Canada.
butterfly that we've had in our garden here is the Jersey tiger. Anybody heard of that before?
No.
Okay. Wings closed. It's white with black lengthy stripes going downward. And then when it flies off, it's unique. And I'll be damned if I can't take a photograph with the wings open. I have tried and I have tried with aching arms and shoulders and neck, and because they're so fast. So when they open their wings, it's vibrant orange with black stripes. Sorry.
Sounds brilliant.
My husband's going to give the next talk. He will come.
It's a moth. Here, I'm going to show people if I can. Hold on a second.
But if you can show the wings open, it's quite rare sighting.
Okay. Can you see that, folks? Is that coming up?
It's loading.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now it's the one
yeah.
that's got the orange.
Like this one here.
Jersey tiger, the yellow one.
Yes.
Oh,
No, orange is the one that we
Orange,
get
the
in
orange
the
one.
garden.
I
It's
see.
very-
There's a whole
It's
variety
very
of-
rare now. Yeah.
Jersey
Oh,
tiger.
amazing.
And so when it's closed, it's like this one, hey? And
When it's closed, it's like that one where I'm pointing on the right, bottom right.
yeah.
Now I've got plenty of photographs of that, but I haven't got it of the wing open, and it's magnificent. It really is. Oh, gone.
Thanks for that. Like that.
I think Aggie's just wrong, thinking where is Eric? But he is here. He's just.
Oh yeah, of
talking to
course.
us.
I think I was I got confused. I forgot that Eric was your partner. So I was
the same thing. Happy.
panicking. How about yourself, Kat? Have you had a good week or two since I last saw you?
Fine, nothing special, just been working at the Abbey, nothing
I was going to say,
unusual.
you must have some nice wildlife at the Abbey coming and going, I suppose.
No, just dog walkers.
Just dog walkers. Fair enough. Yeah. So nothing. Has it been okay though? Is it getting cold out there?
Oh, fine. One day it was very cold, so I was cold. So the next day I wore loads and loads of clothing, and then it was boiling hot.
Yeah.
As it,
Feeling yes.
And
So I don't know what this week's going to be like.
how's your photography? You weren't here the week that you shared those photos of the bees on your.
Oh yes, my bees, my amazing bees. I just love taking photographs of sunsets.
Yeah.
And we've had some really pretty ones lately.
we have. Yeah.
Oh, and I got a nice rainbow. I posted a rainbow on Facebook. It was just perfect over Torquay Harbour. Pretty one.
So where's Aggie, my darling?
So Aggie was at the dentist this morning, and she's the side of her face is about this big. She's in quite a lot of pain.
Oh
dear.
Oh,
It's like an abscess.
Are you Harry?
I'm Harry. Hiya, Eric. Nice to meet
When do you want me to talk?
you. I didn't even know you were there.
I'll sit behind Krisha.
You guys need another chair, I think. Perhaps.
Not to get us both in at the same time. That's the problem.
Yeah, I suppose so. Well, maybe in maybe a few minutes. I'd love to just. I haven't seen everyone for a while, so it's nice.
So while Chris was talking about butterflies and things,
Yeah.
I think it was the year before last. I was sitting in our back garden, and this large butterfly flew over, and I immediately thought, "Gosh, I know what that is. It's a swallowtail." And I've never ever seen one before. And they're yellow and they've got a big long tail like a swallow. And they're subtropical. And I got onto Devon Wildlife and they put me through to their butterfly people. And I said to them, look, I've just seen a swallowtail butterfly. And they said, where are you? And I said, Torbay. And they said, we do get the occasional sighting of a swallowtail, but it's always in the Torbay area.
Maybe there's just one very, very busy swallowtail flying around.
Bottom yellow.
There it is.
Can you see that, folks?
The large one, bottom yellow.
Wow. Yeah.
I never saw it that once. I've never seen it again.
Very pretty.
I've seen the white one, but not here.
Because a good place to see butterflies is that place next to the Otter, where the steam train centre is, at Buckfastleigh. There's a butterfly, it's a tropical butterfly place there.
Yes.
It's a great place to go in the winter because it's like 30 degrees inside.
And your glasses will steam up.
But the minute you come out, you're freezing cold. Feels 10 times colder than it really is.
There's a little machine, can't you? You can warm your glasses up so that, you know, they stop steaming by the door. Yes. So everybody goes in with glasses, you know, it all steams up, and then there's a little machine, it blows hot air or something. I don't know what it is. I wasn't wearing glasses, but yeah. But I saw other people using it. So
you've been there.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Right, isn't it?
But I had a lovely experience in the Solomon Islands. Most of the accommodation there, of the huts and the houses, are all on stilts, and I was leaning over the balcony and looking at the frangipani below, you know, and I suddenly thought, oh, there's a lovely butterfly down there, which was about the size of a large one, nothing much more, say 2 or 3 inches, 3 inches, you know, something like that. And I suddenly realized no butterfly can do wings like that. You know, its wings were going so fast. I suddenly realized it was a hummingbird.
No way.
And it was about the size of a butterfly. I've never seen anything so small. It was absolutely beautiful.
They are gorgeous. Now that's something you have a problem photographing. I've tried to photograph hummingbirds, and it's so difficult.
Yes, I can imagine, because they just keep moving, don't they? They have to feed for 12, 14 hours to keep going. Never mind about putting weight on. Yes, but the other thing, I went to a drinks party in somebody else's house and went out on the balcony to cool off in the evening because it's very humid there. And on the sort of piece of wood holding the roof up, you know, you get poles and then there's a thing that holds all the poles in order. There was a moth, and I'm not exaggerating, it was about 8 or 9 inches wide, just plain brown, nothing else. And it was just sitting there. By the time I realized what it was and looked at it, I turned around to shout to my husband, come and have a look, it had gone. But it was, you know, sublime to ridiculous. This tiny bird is a hummingbird, what I thought was a butterfly, and this moth, never seen anything like it. It was the span of my hand and another inch, and that's about 9 inches wide. I was just blinking with it, but I was so sorry I didn't see any more.
That was amazing. And
it's a long way to go to the Solomon Islands to see them, though.
Yes.
Maybe I'd love to hear. So in a minute, I'll ask Eric to just introduce himself and say what he's going to do and everything. But I'd love to hear, you know, Toby, Glenys, how have your weeks been? Have you been up to much?
Well, not this week, but the end of last week, we went to Dorset.
Oh, yeah.
I went with my son and my daughter-in-law, And there we met my daughter, who I hadn't seen since March,
Oh,
and
lovely.
my granddaughter, who I hadn't seen since about Christmas last year. So that was lovely. And we went walking after, and ended up in a smashing walk, looking all over Kimmeridge and beyond, much beyond. It was wonderful, yes. So that was absolutely lovely, a real treat day. Mhm.
And was that
Yeah.
just a, how did you get to Dorset? Was it just they came down to there, or they came to you and then you went over?
They came from Surrey.
Okay.
They live in Surrey, and we went from here. My son and my daughter-in-law live up on Dartmoor. I went with them. So we met up. There were 7 of us, so we were sat separately in the cafe at Kimmeridge. And so we tried to obey all the rules and we got away from each other. Mhm. So yes, it was very special. Mhm.
Yeah.
You wanted to run up and hug them and squeeze them.
Oh yes, absolutely, but none of it.
None
Not
of it, yeah.
allowed. No.
No.
We just
That
held
sounds-
our arms out to each other, and that was it. Yes.
So,
Yeah.
did you get some photos of you? Do you know, or anything like that?
No, I didn't. No, my daughter took some, and my son took some. So, but they're on here on the iPad. Yes. So I can't really get them to you at the moment. I don't know how to do it. Not if I'm open. It's open, you know.
Oh.
So yes, we had a lovely day. Mm-hmm.
Oh, sounds really
Yes.
nice.
We always go to the same cafe in Kimmeridge. It's very nice. I can recommend it to anyone. It was very good. It's a quiet little place, it's Kimmeridge. I don't know whether anybody knows it or not. Then we had a walk down to the beach, which takes about 20 odd minutes. So it wasn't so far. But the tide was in, unfortunately. I like when the tide's out and you can go on the rocks. There's a lot of ammonites there. And they're mainly in the rocks, and it asks you not to delve for them, so we don't do that. No. Yes.
But interesting to see.
Yes. Yes. Yes, it was. The lady who said about the birds from Russia, what kind were they, please?
Black cap.
Sorry?
Black cap.
Black cap.
Black cap, yes. All
That's
right.
the male. The female has a slightly reddish.
Oh, yes.
cap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chestnut colour, really, isn't it?
Yes. Oh, I'll look it up after. Yes. Mhm.
Delightful song as well.
Yes. Black cap. Yes. Yes.
How are you, Tovi? Have you had a chance to see your daughter yet? Last time she was in quarantine, last time I spoke with you.
Yes, she came today.
Oh, that's nice.
Came Monday. Yeah, and did all my housework. Picking up, she didn't come. Yeah, washing. And I went to hers. Went for dinner in the evening. Yeah, it was nice. First time for, I don't know how many weeks. 6 weeks, wasn't it? Yeah.
A couple of weeks for some.
Yeah, so that's better.
Felt nice to see her and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, saw my granddaughter today.
Oh, nice.
Yes. She's been in lockdown as well. I don't know. Is it ever going to stop?
Well, yeah. It's been a hard week, hasn't it? I think for everybody. Everyone's sort of going through that feeling again. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Only meet 6 people. Because I used to go to my son's on a Sunday for lunch. And he's got his family staying there with 4 children and 2 adults. So of course I couldn't go there Sunday. No.
Talking about making under under 12s exempt from the six. The
Well,
group.
there were 6 of them. There's
But
8
I-
of them.
So
That would,
Yeah, there was 8 of them, I don't think. I didn't go, so my son bought my roast dinner up
did
to
he?
me.
Oh, that's nice.
Only takes 2 minutes.
That's nice.
Yeah. So I did have my roast dinner. Yeah.
it's a shame when you miss out on things like that.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think they're realizing just how bad it is. I mean, I did 4 months without my family.
Yeah.
And because of Auntie Joan going, I booked myself 3 trips away and didn't get myself another pet because my pet died. So total solitary confinement.
It is awful, yeah.
It's dreadful. I'm now in the bubble with my son and daughter-in-law and 2 grandchildren. But my grandson's been nearly as much locked down as I have been. He didn't go back to school at all. They did send him remote learning stuff, but everything he would normally do was closed.
Yeah.
You know, it's not fair on a kid. He's
It's not,
13.
I say it's not fair on us old people anyway.
It's not fair.
It's
It's not fair on us, but it's understandable because we don't want to die. But it's not fair on the kids because the chances of them getting it badly are so remote. They're more likely to die of flu.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ridiculous, you know. Anyway, I took him snorkeling and I took him fishing. So
That was good.
How about yourself, Sue and Margie? You've been up to much since last seen? Any
We go out
visitors?
most days for walks. We
Yeah.
go out and my daughter and son-in-law, they've been in their camper van down to Cornwall for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, you said.
And they didn't go in one shop at all. They just walked and cycled and they had a fantastic time. Because my daughter has been working all the way through lockdown. So she said it was nice just to get away. So they've been up quite a bit. And my son-in-law's been round with things from the allotment. He's got an allotment round the corner from us. So he brings all fresh produce down. We're now getting butternut squashes. So I've made a big batch of butternut squash and sweet potato soup.
lovely.
So there's nothing like it.
Great.
I'm looking forward to more soup updates. I tell you what, you folks are going to.
I make a lot of soup. Yeah.
I want to know more.
And I make big batches of it and then put it in the freezer. So
Well, that's the way to do it. I had a soup making session yesterday and made a tomato soup with my own tomatoes that finally ripened at the end of the season, and a mixed veg soup as well, and put it all away, or a lot of it away, in the freezer in portions. So looking forward to that over winter. Nice quick lunch.
Yeah.
It was lovely.
Okay. Well, maybe Eric, you could just introduce yourself and say a little bit. I don't even really know what's going on because Aggie's spoken with you. But, I'm looking forward to it. Maybe we can, from what I understand, it's a bit of a story, and then maybe we can have time for a little chat afterwards or something like that.
Yeah, we'll see how much of it we can get in. First of all, I was thinking this morning about the nice weather we've been having lately, and we tend to call it an Indian summer when it's late in the year. But Indian summer actually refers to the American Indians when it was their harvest time, and they used to call it Indian summer or Indian harvest time. The other thing, which is a bit more obscure, because I'm full of these sort of useless bits of information that I tend to talk about, is calling a very, very late warm period St. Martin's Day. Has anyone ever heard of St. Martin?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, St. Martin is a saint, as it says, and St. Martin's Day is the 11th of November, which is also Armistice Day by coincidence. And it tends to be celebrated more in the Low Countries like Germany and the Netherlands, where they use it as an excuse to do lots of cooking and bake cakes and biscuits and things. Good weather around the early part of November. In the olden times, around medieval times, they often used to call it St. Martin's weather, which I thought was quite an unusual thing to know. I'll tell you a story about Jackanory. Who remembers that from kids' television programme?
Yeah. Yep.
Well done. Started in 1965 and went right through to 1996, believe it or not. And I thought, well, this is interesting. Jackanory. Apparently, when he used to say, I'm going to tell you a story about Jackanory. Jackanory was a character from a kid's fairy tale. So that was how to tell you the story about him came about. But Jackanory is also Cockney rhyming slang for what's the story? So that's how I'm going to start off today. I'll tell you a story about Jackanory. What's the story? The story is basically about a village in the late 1950s, early 1960s, and all the sorts of things that used to go on there. So we have a tiny village high up on the edge of the Chiltern Hills, surrounded by forest, very large common in the centre of the village. It dates back beyond the Doomsday Book because it's mentioned in the Doomsday Book, which was 1086, which of course we all know apart from me. I have to look at where I've written it down. So all from the Doomsday Book, this tiny little village, and that's where I was brought up as a child. In the village, the oldest building was the church, which was a Norman church, dated from 12 something, and still being used today. As kids, we were fascinated because there was a story. And about 200 yards from the church was this small manor house, which was also a farm. The farm had part of the original moat still surrounding it. The tale was that there was a tunnel, went from the underneath cellars in the old farmhouse and came up in the church. So of course, as kids, we would go into the church and we'd crawl about on the flagstones, tapping them, see if we could find one that sounded loose, and then we could hopefully pull it up and there would be the tunnel underneath it. Now, we had lots of sore knees and we never found anything. But the reason for that story, excuse me, came about because the village and the old farmhouse was probably about 3 miles away from an old main road called the Watling Street, which is the A5 in modern day terms. And of course that ran from London all the way up to Birmingham and on towards the north. And it was notorious for highwaymen. Dick Turpin would be there. Another person, another lady called the Wicked Lady, who was actually a titled lady, and she used to dress up, this was in the 18th century, she used to dress up as a highwayman and go out and rob the coaches just for the fun of it. And she could escape by going back to her manor house, taking all the clothes off and being the lady again, and nobody would ever think it was her. But Dick Turpin and his compatriots, they used to go across country if they thought somebody was looking for them, and they would hide in the farmhouse. And of course, they needed to escape from the farmhouse if somebody was looking for them there. So the story was that there was a tunnel from the cellars in the farmhouse, so they could escape through the tunnel and come up in the church. Whereas in those days, they couldn't be touched in the church because you weren't allowed to go into the church and arrest somebody.
Sanctuary.
So as I grew up in the village, I actually was fortunate enough to get a job weekends working at the farm. And one day the farmer said to me, would I pop down into the cellars and bring up a bucket full of coal? So I thought, great, don't believe it. I can have a look in the cellars, see if I can find the other entrance to this tunnel. So down into the cellars, And there in one wall of the cellar was a blanked off entrance doorway with some steps going up to the bottom of it. And I thought that has got to be the entrance to the tunnel going under the ground and coming up into the church. So back up, said to the farmer, blocked up doorway in the cellar. He said, oh, we don't know much about that. He said, that's been there as long as we have. But I never did find out the truth about it, even though I had many sawneys crawling about in the church.
Hello, Lizzie. Hi.
Are we okay?
Yeah, we're good. Keep going. That's fine. I've muted.
Okay. The village centre itself was 3 little shops, but the highlight of us being youngsters was a shop called Gladman's, run by an old chap named Tom Gladman. Tom had a nickname. He was called Snap because he used to play cards in the Red Lion on a Friday night. And the old story was that he had half a gold sovereign hanging round his neck on a chain, which was supposed to bring him good luck. Tom was probably the original open all hours. Of course, his shop was adjoined to his house, and he would sit in his lounge, and it might be late on a Sunday evening, but Tom would be looking out of his lounge window, hoping somebody would be walking past. Not much chance of that in a tiny little village, but if somebody did get close by, Tom would jump up, run round to the front of the shop, turn all the lights on, open the door, and stand by the doorway, hoping they might want to come in and buy something. So, what did Tom sell? Of course, the highlight for us kids was sweets. In the old-fashioned glass jars on the shelves at the back, not the modern plastic things you see in the shops these days. And of course, in those glass jars, you'd have your cola cubes and your, what was it, pears, like sugar pears or sweet pears, all sorts of things, winter mixture. So much a quarter, 4p a quarter, 6p a quarter. Tom was always ready for a sale. So as kids, you could go in there and you could say, Tom, can I have 2 pennyworth of the cola cubes? And he'd say, yeah, of course you can. And he'd carefully weigh them out on the scales. The other thing, of course, was the, what else? Oh yes, Tom surprisingly did bicycle repairs. Now, of course, in the late 50s and early 60s, there was hardly any cars in the village, maybe 1 or 2, half a dozen. But everybody had bicycles. So if you wanted batteries for your cycle lamp, you went to see Tom. Or you wanted brake pads, yeah, you went to see Tom. He also had a few newspapers in there. And of course, when it was getting round to Guy Fawkes time, old Tom would sell fireworks, Brock's fireworks. But he started up with his firework club way back in the summer. You could go in there and you could buy a few stamps or put a few pennies in. And then when it came round to November the 5th, you got this huge amount, hopefully a huge amount, in the firework club. You could get them whatever you wanted in there. After old Tom passed away, they were clearing out, his daughter was clearing out his room where he used to live. And under the bed, they found 2 small sacks, and they were full of half-crown coins. Gosh, God knows how much money there was there compared to what there would be these days. Because half a crown was quite a lot of money in the 1950s, wasn't it? I mean, you had 2 or 3 of those in your pocket or in your handbag. There was quite a bit of weight there. So that was quite a find. Talking about half a crowns, that comes on to the other part of the story. Just before we move on, anybody see this picture?
Yeah.
That's the village high street, taken in the late 1980s. And it's almost exactly the same there as it is now, except that the street looks a bit more like a road, but very, very narrow. And there is a lady there dressed in some very old-fashioned clothes. Probably can't see it too well in the photograph. Must get that framed sometime. Saturday mornings, odd jobs days in the village, weekends, go and do some odd jobs around the bigger houses in the village. What did I get paid? 2 half-a-crowns, 5 shillings. That was a good bit of pocket money in those days. Of course, old Tom had a fair bit of it in his sweet shop, as you can imagine, as well as us finding the odd Corona bottles or Tizer bottles or our White's lemonade bottles. And we'd take them back if we found them somewhere, and we'd say, "Here, Tom, throw them back on the bottle." And he would look at it and he'd say, "That's not one of mine, you can take that away." Or occasionally he would say, "Yep, I'll have that one." And he wouldn't give you the 3 pence, he'd look at you, because he knew you wanted sweets. Or 3 pence, you didn't really want the money back. And that way he made even more money out of it. But there was a champion day one day when we were looking round the hedgerows, because we found something very, very rare. Do you remember a soda siphon? Where you
Oh, yeah.
the lever on the side and all the soda came out the top. It's a big glass thing called a soda siphon. Well, they had money on them, and it was half-a-crown deposit on a soda siphon.
Good money.
Oh, we took that back to the off license. We got the half-a-crown straight over to Tom's, spend it all on sweets. Maybe a new battery for the bicycle. Anyway, in the village, with such a small amount of shops, we used to have people came round, tradespeople used to come round once a week. There'd be a butcher came round twice a week, baker, but a baker called the midnight baker, we called him. And he would come round on a Tuesday from a neighbouring village, probably in the afternoon, leave the warm bread in the kitchen on the table. But on a Friday, well, you never knew when he was coming, but it was sometime after we went to bed at night, and when we got up the next morning, the bread would be on the table in the kitchen. So we had to leave the kitchen door open all night. But apparently the baker man, he liked visiting the pubs on his way round on a Friday because he'd been paid. And of course it was quite late by the time he got round to us. Certainly, I think after closing time. So we never did know what time he eventually came round. So that was a midnight baker. The butcher, I think, on a Tuesday and a Friday. But there was another chap came round, and I think they used to call him a tallyman. And he would sell you anything from a pair of shoes to a bicycle. And he ran a shop again in the neighbouring village. And I bought my first bicycle off of him, a racing bike. But shortly after I started doing my jobs on a Saturday morning for my 2 half-crowns, he came around one evening during the week and he had this little transistor radio. It was the first of the little transistor radios made by a company called Pi. You remember Pi used to make radios and televisions? Anyway, he was selling these little Pi, and I thought, well, that's brilliant. I could have one of these. Put it on my bedside cabinet. So how much was it? And you know, I can't for the life of me remember exactly what the price was. I think it might have been 12 shillings and sixpence or something. But at that time, it seemed quite a lot of money because it was one of the early ones. But I remember him saying to me, you can have it on so much a week. He said, £half-a-crown a week. So I must have one of these transistor radios. But that's one of my half-crowns gone a week, paid for the transistor radio. So there it was, sitting on my little bedside table next to me. And I would put it on in the mornings. When I had to get up at the weekends and go off to work doing jobs, I put it on. And in those days, you either got the home service or you got the light programme. And there wasn't much else, especially in the village where the reception wasn't very good. So I turned mine on and that would come on about 6:45. And it would be the, what was it, what they used to call it? Was it no, not the fishing programme. Anyway, it was all about the weather and the fishing and the results of the different tides and things. And and they would be talking about Dogger Bank and places like this, and that was all mystical to me, but it kept me awake listening to this. And but it would get me up, it would stop me going back to sleep. But then of course I used to try and listen to other things on the radio, and if we were lucky on a Sunday afternoon, we would get Top of the Pops with people like Alan Freeman, Fluff Freeman on a Sunday afternoon. And sometimes we would try and tune into other things in the evening. Who remembers listening to Radio Luxembourg?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you?
Hands up.
Radio
Yeah.
Luxembourg?
Yes.
Where were you when you used to try and listen to it? Can you remember?
Under the covers in bed, because
like
my
everybody
parents
else.
didn't approve.
Me too.
How about Keynsham, spelt Keynsham? Horace Bachelor.
That's
Horace
just what,
Bachelor.
that's just what I was. That's just what I was going to come on to. I think that was the highlight. That every hour, Horace Bachelor would come on, and he would say, "I want to tell you about my info-draw method of winning the football pools. Send no money now, but write to me at Horace Bachelor, P.O. Box 1, Keynsham. I'll just spell that for you.
Keynsham,
Bristol."
Bristol.
Well, do you know Horace Bachelor was the key advertiser on Radio Luxembourg? He paid them more money for advertising than anybody else.
Yeah.
And during the peak of his advertising, which was the late 50s and early 60s, Horace was getting £1,000 a day coming into Bristol to his home with £1 postal orders for people. That was a fair old income in the late 50s, wasn't it?
That was
£5,000
huge.
a day. I know. So Horace lived in the nice manor house on the outskirts of Keynsham. He liked his posh cars. He always had the latest. Funnily enough, he never had a Rolls Royce or a Bentley for some reason, but he would always have the latest Jaguar or a Bristol or something like that. And also the funny thing was that when Horace passed away, he only left £500 in his will to his son, and nobody could ever work out where all the money had gone to. Was he a compulsive gambler? We never really know.
Offshore investment.
Maybe,
That's what I
maybe.
think. Yeah.
But Horace started off as a door-to-door salesman. And when he became famous on Radio Luxembourg, Fab 208, remember?
Yeah.
He was actually well into his 50s. And he did have quite a substantial win on the football pools. Now, whether that was down to his famous info-draw method or whether it was down to just luck, I suspect more likely luck. And apparently quite a number of investors in his info-draw method did also win money on the football pools. But when you think that 5,000 a day were being entered into his method, it's not surprising really that quite a number of them did actually win some money on their football pools. When he died, his son did actually take over running the info-draw method. But of course the football pools did die away, didn't they? And people stopped doing the football. Oh, excuse me. I remember my father and everybody at that time when I was younger, they used to put a little bit on the football pools each week. So really that sort of draws up my talk of life in the village for now and the story about Horace Bachelor. There was lots of other things happened in the village that were interesting, like the coming of the elderflower man, for instance, and why we called bonfire night and not Guy Fawkes night. But that, as they say, is another story. I hope you've enjoyed listening.
Yes,
Very much.
great.
Thank you.
That was lovely. That's
Yeah.
great. Lots of memories.
Yeah. I must admit, with Auntie Joan's funeral, with her being 101, I found loads of photographs and we told a lot of stories. It made me think how life changed from when she was born. I remember quite a lot, having been there as a child, but the milkman used to come round in a horse and cart with the milk churn, and hanging inside the cart on the sides would be hooks with the different pint, 2 pint, half pint measures. And he would dip it in and fill your jug. You'd go out with your own jug. And then on Sundays, he would make ice cream. So, of course, all us kids would be out there with a bowl for our bowl of ice cream for Sunday. There are a lot of things like this that we could lose, couldn't we?
Yeah. When I worked on the farm, we used to milk the cows, and I used to take the churns of milk across to the dairy, and we would put a cooling machine into the churn of milk that used to cool it down. And then we used to take the milk straight from the churn, like you say, with like a big ladle, scoop it out into a jug and take it home, and just literally drink the milk cooled straight from the cow. It didn't come into being pasteurised until many years later.
And nobody got sick, did they?
Not that I remember, no.
Oh, they did, and that's why the WI had a movement to get it pasteurised. It was not good for children.
No.
I can't remember the details now, but I know children used to get something from unpasteurised milk and die.
Oh, right.
And the WI actually, which has done a lot over the years, they had a movement to have pasteurised milk so it was safer for children. And then I suppose it all came in with the glass bottles and so on. But,
I think the disease was probably brucellosis.
You're right.
Rings a bell.
Yes, we had we had unpasteurised milk in Lesotho when we were working there years ago, and we used to get our milk from over the border. Well, the South Africans farms around Lesotho, because Lesotho is a very tiny place, and they didn't have cattle. But some of the farms provided pasteurised milk, and we used to get their particular one as well. Yeah, no, it's quite serious, brucellosis.
It is serious if you get it. Yeah,
it can be deadly.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. I greatly enjoyed that, and it sounds like everyone's been brought back.
Just a point when you were saying about £1,000. When I was nursing, I was nursing as a staff midwife. I used to get 3 and 11pence 3 farthings, and this had been 1954. An hour. So you can imagine £1,000 compared with 3 and 11pence 3 farthings, because when I was on my honeymoon, it went up 2pence farthing. So I was 3 shillings and 9pence. But you can see that your £1,000 makes, you know, I mean, I was working on a much smaller budget. £1,000 a week was a fortune, really, in those days. Yeah.
Yeah. My first wage was £14 and 5 shillings a week.
Oh, mine was only part-time, but it was the full rate, but 3 and 11pence farthing, 3 farthings, beg your pardon.
Well, you know what a farthing is, Harry?
Not a clue. Isn't it a type of bicycle? No, an old,
yes, a quarter of a penny.
A
quarter of an old penny.
Which is a quarter of 2pence, I think, isn't it, today or something? I don't know.
No,
everything was 3/4.
Not worth anything.
You bought material, you know, for 9 shillings and 3/4. Yeah, 3/4.
It had a little wren on the reverse side.
That's yes.
I've got some still.
I have
some in the other room.
I've got a threepenny bit. I think I've got the 8-sided thrift.
Yeah.
Threepenny bit.
Yeah.
The old penny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
You remember the
Tina,
silver
so
thrush?
deep.
Yes.
Mm.
You remember the silver thrush?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
I've got
the
some
one
of
you put in the
those.
Christmas pudding.
Yeah.
Puddings.
They're
Because it
very
was
good.
really, it was silver. It wasn't any
Yeah.
other thing. It was silver.
No, it was
So it was
proper
safe to put in the
silver,
Christmas
pure,
pudding.
pure
Yes.
silver, wasn't it?
They were actually worth more than the face value of them, weren't they? Because of the
Yes.
silver content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah, I just
Oh,
thought,
we could go on with reminiscing all day, I think.
yeah,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
bore
it's-
everybody. But you
No.
haven't. It was lovely. I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, it was excellent. Thank you.
Well,
Oh, thank you.
perhaps I think what's lovely about this is, you know, I know, Eric, you're very experienced and you do this in lots of different situations and everything, but I love the fact that you're just Christia's husband, you know, and we've
Yeah.
all the time, and I think this is the point, and we've all got these sort of skills that we can share, and I loved seeing Kat's photography that she shared with us before, and Julia, you long time ago now taught us yoga for an afternoon and stuff, so you know, I think it's just a lovely thing. But maybe Eric, you can join us again in a few weeks to do the next part of the story, or would people
Yeah,
like?
sure.
That would be
Another
lovely.
topic I
Lovely.
like to talk about is I collect lots of old interesting news articles from the 1930s. And I know it's a long time ago, but some of them are really quite entertaining, the sort of things that used to happen.
Oh, yes.
We'd love to have you. I think for next week, I think a few of you were here when Liz Diamond did her creative writing. We did the list poems from the.
We all had homework.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, we
Poetry.
basically Liz is a poet, but she encouraged us to just take some items out of our wallets or purse and just sort of managed to write a little quick poem just based off of those. It was very, you know.
But we also have to write a poem, don't we, now, with eight articles.
I have to be honest, I have no idea.
Yeah, no, with 8 things, yeah.
No homework.
I was never good at doing my homework, Julia.
Well, you sent us out scripts, didn't you? 3 pages of them.
Yeah.
And then she said, if I come again, we'll do this poem. You write the poem, and you must have 6 of these, or was it 6 or 4? And 2 others of your own choice. Yeah.
So we've
You may need to send that again.
Yeah. So well, we've asked her whether she can make next week, but she's a little bit sick at the moment, so we're going to play it by ear a little bit. If she can't make it next week, I'm sure she'll join us another time, and we'll probably just do a quiz next week. So keep your eye out. We'll send out an email in the next day or 2 saying which one it is, and hopefully quiz, maybe you just can prepare questions for us as well. Be lovely. And, if any of you, anyone who you know would like to join, as always, invite them along. If you think there's people that might want to share a skill that they've got, or anything like that, an exercise class or whatever, please put them in touch with me, and we have a little bit of budget to their external trainers, and they normally charge and stuff like that. So
I'll look out for that.
yeah, it's lovely to see you all after weeks.
And you, Harry.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Eric.
Bye.
See you next week. Thank you, Eric. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Eric. That was
Thank you.
really good.
Thank you. Bye.